Did you miss William Ruto's joint media roundtable earlier this week? Then this podcast will sort you out. I have also taken time to follow what exactly happened and make a very good review about some of the outcome of that media engagement. President made the second roundtable media interview after the first one that was done in January, and that was from the start of the year, speaking about what maybe is in the diary, and then this one was the second one. For those who missed it, just like me, I have taken time to follow it up, and I can tell you that I don't expect President William Ruto even to perform better in subsequent interviews if what he did earlier on Sunday will be the same plan in future. If the handlers smoothened the head of state by telling him that he performed in that interview, then they should listen to the Bold podcast, because here we shall gonna face the facts. And in case you don't know, we are also very lenient. We are also not very lenient with the facts. Even his allies knows very well that that media engagement made more damage to the president's image and government's reputation than good. I want us to narrow down to these three areas where he actually flip-flopped, and then from there we shall dive deep into it. But take a minute and let's listen to Jay's Flowers Limited. Hi guys, my name is Kevin of the Bold Analysis. Are you looking for fresh Kenyan flour? Then you need credible, certified and trusted company. And that is why I want to introduce to you Jay's Flowers Limited. Jay's Flowers Limited is a company that is currently based at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And what you need to do is very simple. When you place your order with Jay's Flowers Limited, they will help you to get fresh flowers from the farm and also process the exportation to the country of destination. This is a trusted company that is currently working with clients from 7 continents across the world. What you need to know, you need to get more information by contacting them here, plus 254 7433 94954. Jay's Flowers Limited, the home of quality flowers. Now, and that is to help us market the Kenyan brand out there. President William Ruto is clearly overrating himself in the matters economy. And I am so, I really got excited by the fact that he was speaking the first person singular by saying, Mimi, myself, I am doing this and that. He's not trying to attribute to the other, maybe other ministries and other departments. He's taking it upon himself as the responsibility. And I think him saying himself, taking that position of speaking as the person that is in charge of everything, was to boost the credibility of that information. But when he was pushed to the wall, especially on the question of housing, I realized he left the facts and decided to pull an emotional appeal. And this is what I mean.
Okay, it's the responsibility.
It is not your business.
Okay, hang on, Mr. President.
Who is Kenyan government? Kenyan government is me and you.
Hang on, Mr. President. You saw the mandate of the Kenyan people.
Exactly.
There is a represent. We can't represent all of us.
Yes.
I worked hard for my money.
Yes.
You said it's not tax, but there is a bill in Parliament. If it's passed, it's legally binding. Why would I make a contribution for others to succeed? It's your business as the government. You are the head of state. You have the responsibility. You have the mandate.
That's why the Constitution gives me the power to tax.
But it's you who is leading.
And that's why the Constitution gives me the power to sign things into law. Hii housing sio nyumba. Naona watu wengi wanasumbuka, sisi hatutaki nyumba bana. Mbona nani alikwambia tunahitaji nyumba? Kusema, how is it my business? Inanihusu nini? kama yule hana kazi inanihusu nini? Kama anaishi kwa slum inanihusu nini? My friends, mimi nataka niwaambie inakuhusu, kwa sababu yule unamdharau ndio analipa ushuru wewe ukapata mshahara. Number 1. Number 2, yule ambaye unamdharau huyo pengine ni ndugu yako, pengine ni dada yako, ama ni Mkenya mwenzako. Precisely. That's why I'm saying these 5 million characters, our children, getting out of school. Don't you think it is a decent thing? Don't you think it is the right thing to participate in an exercise that helps our country, our young people, instead of engaging in crime, in abuse of drugs, to be part, to get a job?
The journalists went there hunting for tough answers in what looked like an interview. The objective was just to put the government accountable. It was all about recent things happening and challenging, or rather looking for the position of government and what the state is doing. And actually it was a test, it was accountability test interview. President, however, tried and really struggled to tailor-made his responses so that he's struggling to depict or to portray the UDA administration policies as those which are very responsive to the people's needs. However, looking at the packaging, William Ruto tried to convince the country that what the UDA administration is doing is very responsive to the people's needs. However, it comes in an environment, or rather it comes a way that looks like lies, or rather unmet promises. And broken promises is what mutilated the character of William Ruto and destroyed the image and the trust beyond repair. I don't think Kenyans will start normalizing the lie. And I want you to watch these 2 videos here. They will really tell you what I'm talking about here.
Kama tungepitisha hii jambo kwa supplementary budget, June ingewezekana.
Na unaweza hakikishia Wakenya kwamba
budget tukipitisha, tutapunguza gharama ya gesi
kati ya shilingi 300 na 500 kwa mtungi.
Kwanza mtungi, wacha gas. Ile tunapunguza kati ya shilingi 300 na 500 ni mtungi yenyewe. Ndio sasa uongeze gas ndani yake.
Mimi nikiwa ndani ya Kericho County, Kipkelion East Chepson, wewe rais wa nchi William Ruto, wakati wa siasa ulitupromise kuwa utapunguza uchumi. Badala ya kupunguza uchumi ndio ukasukuma iende juu zaidi. Alafu kwa kuja tena ukaturuka, ukasema bei ya gas utapunguza. Badala upunguze bei ya gas unakuja unaturuka ati ilikuwa ni mtungi. Mtungi nifanyie nini na niko na mtungi mwingine? Ama hiyo mtungi unatuletea tuweke maji. Rais, ni wakati wa kuambia watu ukweli.
It's very interesting. That guy is very hungry. You check TikTok. I've become nowadays a fan of TikTok. You check TikTok and you see the way Kenyans are trivializing the gas promise. People have really made different skits on this. I said I was going to tackle 3 areas where I saw William Ruto blatantly flip-flopping, and one of them is pulling the emotional appeal on the question of the 3% housing levy. And then the second one is that gas drama, where simply coming out to, rebuttal something that he had promised in the past. Now, I want us to look at the other third area. Despite of having a very precise mastery of what looks like a futuristic economic recovery roadmap, and however, it's more of a theory, and that has been crammed and maybe put here. It's a song that has been sung for long and then is crammed there. Asked about the tax perspective, and especially when he was responding to the percentage of tax against our GDP, which is standing at 14%, I saw a deliberate attempt, an intentional attempt by William Ruto to actually 14%. Our VAT is 14%. VAT vis-a-vis our GDP is 14%, and that is what is going to our fiscal budget. He's trying to draw comparisons with our peers in Africa or other countries in Africa, and that to me is looking at that's an escapist narrative. You cannot say it is not right that we are being overtaxed, and it is right because our neighbor somewhere is being overtaxed. And the truth of the matter here is even the countries mentioned, they're not doing that much. No. And there are many dynamics into it. You're just being told about tax. But in those countries, you're not being told about the kind of resources they're doing. You're not being given a whole picture of their economy. And so there is no way we can start copy-pasting and tell Kenyans that you should not compare about taxation in terms of the percentage of VAT vis-a-vis our GDP, because countries like Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa are doing a better rate than us. So we have to give it an angle that is a bit convincing, and I didn't look at that defense as one that was a bit convincing.
Are we overtaxed? That is the question that we need to ask. And I want to answer that question.
Yeah.
Are Kenyans overtaxed? Let me give you the statistics. OECD countries, OECD countries, the tax as a percentage of GDP, the average is 34% of GDP. 34%. You have from Turkey, which is 22% of GDP, to France, which is 45% of GDP. Okay? Let's leave the OECD. Let us come to our continent. Our peers, South Africa, Tunisia, Morocco. They are between 23 and 28% of GDP. Tax as a percentage of GDP. Where is Kenya? Now we are at 14. If you look at the budget this year, I want to move it from 14 to 16% of GDP. By God's grace, maybe next year, 18, maybe like that.
Yeah.
Because we have to be realistic. You know, if we do not pay taxes, we cannot be like the countries we want to be. We want to be in their shoes.
That's it. The countries that are being mentioned, are they better? Wouldn't we compare to a Singapore, a Japan, a US, a Germany, maybe? We are comparing, really trying to compare ourselves with countries that are really struggling like us. There was a story that recently emerged that even Ghana was in the list of countries that are at the risk of defaulting their loans. And so this is not here. And as I said that in the Bold podcast, we are not very lenient with these facts. I did not hear the mention of a hustler fund. And let me just remind you, let's get ourselves acquainted with these facts. Part of the economic recovery plan was the hustler fund. In the hustler fund that was launched in December, November 30th, the ideology was that we scale up entrepreneurship, and when we scale up entrepreneurship, it will broaden our tax base. But truth be it, we've simply reverted to direct taxation by raiding people's payrolls. And I want to be very objective in this matter. I know and I totally agree that quite a big percentage of Kenyans are not paying tax. And those who are available and mostly accessible for the tax are those who are working in the civil servants and the public service. While informal sector employs nearly 60% of our population, but that sector has remained very difficult to tap. So I'm against a promise to scale up entrepreneurship to broaden our tax base. We are still raiding payrolls of the same people who are still paying taxes. The teachers and the civil servants that are being asked to pay the 3% levy that I'm told is not a tax and it is, it's some sort of a saving somehow. That's what is being said. What is it? It is the same people that are still suffering pay increase. Yeah, theirs has not been increased if you are earning less than 500. I need to get that right. It's the same people that NSSF is being revised upwards. It's affecting them. And other deductions. So, that has not been seen. No. What has come out of this, the three areas that I said William Ruto flopped is that one on the housing, the gas, on the unmet promises, and the taxation cushions. So, an overview of what I saw, what comes out of that flop is this. The economic recovery question, the economic recovery strategy is one-sided. What am I saying by one-sided? In that interview, I think the president spoke more about budget and collection, but was non-committal on sealing expenditure loopholes. In fact, was very defensive when the media tried to ask questions on expenditure. And I need to repeat and say, the truth here is, Kenya, we don't have a big problem with collection. We don't have a big problem with the amount of money we collect to go to the consolidated fund. The problem we have is the expenditure. And that is why some of us believe that it was a political blunder, or rather it was a blunder, economic blunder, to employ the 50 CS to do roles in ministries that have principal secretaries and cabinet secretaries and full ministry departments. So where the CS comes is something that we are yet to understand. Some of us believe expenditure is where we have a problem, where president attends all the events and all those events are state functions, and so there is a lot of money that is going into really non-essential state function. Just today, the burial of father to the member of parliament, KJ, president's there, full, supporting everything. Sunday, every Sunday service, interdenominational, is a full state function with people expecting remuneration. So, it comes out clearly that while we are talking more about collection, the president and the UD administration looks silent and the issue of expenditure remains untouched. Expenditure is now where we have a bloated payroll and also wastage, excess wastage, something that I think even D had mentioned. The second thing here is the pedestrian promises seems to be causing a lot of confusion, and Ruto is unclear about how much can I chew. The reason why the written speech is normally done is because you make sure that you tailor-made your speech to what you can do there. And number two, you also don't go out. You also don't overstretch your elastic limit. You need to understand Because for those who are writing your speeches, they know, yes, president is going in this county. For example, is in Nyandaro or is in Turkana or is in Siaya. You know that this area, there is road X and road Y, and there is that project and there is that school and everything is there. But when you go to an event, you will find out the microphone being given to, from county speakers to MCS to members of parliament. And because they want to entice the crowd, they will start mentioning all the projects that I think there, oblivious of the fact that all of it cannot be done because there are budget limitations. So what President has found himself into is that off the cuff speech is normally about a promise. And he seems to be comfortable doing everything. And that is why I believe that William Ruto should, one, limit some of these events. Number two, stick to what has been written there. Let the other people politic. Do what Uhuru Kenyatta used to do in his last term. Come from your seat, read that speech, do some 1 or 2 statements about the unity of a country, kidogo, go back. Finish, event ends there. All those people, let them make all those stories. The deputies there, the MP, let them speak. So that you stick to what you can do. Otherwise, we're going to have a pool of unmet promises and pledges. And that is a very dangerous route because the country is taking stock. Lastly, UD administration is piloting everything. And sorry to say, we seems to be in an experimental mode. Everything being done is being treated as something new. And when you ask, where has that worked? A good example, the economists are really pleasing, smoothing the population by saying, the best way that we've learned is how to subsidize consumption, production, not consumption. So you say, wait, where has that worked out? Just tell us, and what did they do right? The statement is normally left there standing, just like that. It doesn't have the supportive facts, as in, where has it worked? What is the resultant? Or what is the impact on job creation? What is the supportive role that government do? You know, you realize that everything is just experimental. When the president tells you about, I'm doing this, makes it look like it's true and it is the right thing, but you're gonna feel like, wait, where has it worked? Is it right? I'm telling you. That is my sneak peek of that interview, kindly. And thank you very much for watching the Bold podcast. For the Bold, I am going to give you, I finished the fundraiser, I'm going to give you an update about Mzee's condition on Tuesday. I'm actually making an effort to travel to Mukumu Hospital, St. Elizabeth Mukumu Hospital, next week on Tuesday. And on Tuesday, I'll give you a full report. I will not still want to comment. I will comment after all of it is done. So make sure you stay here. And thank you very much for standing in the gap for that, Mzee. Asanteni sana. Thank you. It's not about you, but it's about us. And thank you that we are impacting the society. That was the ideology of Bold Charity Network. A network that helps to support the society. Thank you.